All right, next subject is the bane of my existence, which is rucking footwear. So, footwear, I would say, is probably the most individual part of getting into rucking, or really just in general. Hey, what kind of shoes do you like? And that can apply to running, walking, doing any of your stuff. This kind of stuff is so individual because of our foot shapes, our different needs, and the variables, socks and conditions and things like that. So this has driven me insane. So the backstory is, getting into GORUCK stuff, or really just in the military in general. It used to be, at least in my day, so old man yelling at clouds. It was the Welco Vietnam era jungle boot, which was, one size fits most, but those things, if you took them to the boot man on Yadkin Road, you could have it all set up. And I think even Jason McCarthy talks about the Soft C special when it comes to the old school jungle boots. So what they ended up doing was taking a boot that was, very, very rigid, and basically just giving it a weight reduction like a race car, making it essentially as close to a moccasin as you can get away with. But as the civilian life became a thing and got into GORUCK, was using Garmont, the T8 NFS boots, which were kind of like the racing model, where you had a running shoe style sole and a very, very lightweight upper. It kind of looked sort of jungle boot-esque, and that had worked great for all my tough challenges, most of my GORUCK events up until about a year or 2 years ago. And at some point, not sure what the variable was, but those boots just no longer worked for me. The sizing was right, but I was just getting tore up with blisters. So then that's when we started going down this road. Started to go wide. Maybe I just needed a wider toe box, so I went with a wider boot. Nope, terrible. And in fact, there was just too much play, and this actually started tearing to the Achilles. It was a nightmare. Gave up on the boots. So then looking at what other people wear at GORUCK challenges, like, all right, well, let's think trail shoe. These are Brooks Cascadias. Got a couple pairs of these, and then tried them out, and for short distances seemed fine. And I did all those events in Tombstone last year, and say 6 miles or less, the Brooks Cascadias worked very, very well for me. They're a very stable shoe. They have a lot of grip, and they're fairly well armored as far as taking abuse. It's a well-constructed shoe. They drain actually pretty well too. You can kind of see here in this mesh here, it's almost like a built-in drain board. So on paper, it checked all the boxes, but the issue came to be, it was increased mileage, increased weight. What I ran into was anything about 7 miles and beyond. It didn't matter what I had on my feet, and these were especially just tearing me apart. So the buying shoes online, I was like, all right, well, let's go to a store. Let's actually get this done. So enter the Mizunos. This is the Musion Wave 10. So these came recommended by Fleet Feet. So you get onto their scanner, they show you exactly what your foot size and shape is, and they can give you recommendations based on that. So most of the time I wear an 11 and everything, and they were saying, well, actually your left foot is slightly bigger than the right, and that is gonna put you closer to the 11.5 range. It's like, must have had just the wrong size shoe, a half size off, and didn't realize it. So we ended up leaving with a pair of these. These were the ones that were measured and fit the best. We got on the treadmill with the ruck, and it kind of felt like we did pretty good. And they are definitely more comfortable than the Brooks are. I think that the soles, especially back here, they have a little bit more wear. These have the Vibra Mega Grip on here. They don't seem to weigh any heavier than like a regular trail shoe, but this has held up really, really well. We're probably closing in on like 200 miles with these, and there isn't really like any appreciable wear on here, and they have been thrashed. The laces are a lot easier to work with than the Brooks. These guys get really stuck, and they tie to each other when you're trying to unlace it quickly. Problem. These are actually very, very kind of slick. They're very easy to don and doff. Really wanted to love these shoes. I wanted this to be the solution. We ran into that same problem. That 7 to 8 mile range is where the hot spots started. And that came true on the Baton Death March. I knew by mile 8 we were in trouble. At mile 14, when I was doing a sock change, it was already well past being too late. And you just kind of having to gut through the rest of it. So these didn't work. Now, across these two pairs of trail shoes and the boots that I had been going, we had also played with socks. So Darn Tough had been what I had used in all their different iterations, the boot socks, the thinner ones. I played with both, really, really thick to really, really thin. Played with the Injinji toe socks in there because those came highly recommended. And then the third variable was sock liners, the little polypropylene kind of silky sock liners. And I used different combinations with each of the combinations of the footwear. It's the same damn problem. Same thing with Luco tape. All of the, using the body glide on your high friction surfaces in your foot and between the toes. I did all of that, and every permutation you could name. If I had a whiteboard, it would look like a very complex algebra problem. None of it worked. So I had previous experience with the GORUCK footwear, the Mac V1s. And that was another one of those cases where it just checked all the boxes on paper. God, I wanted that to be the answer and love it. Friggin' hated them. I hate the Mac V1s. I will not use the Mac V1s to this day. The fit was all just wonky and wrong. It was like a clown shoe, even though lengthwise I had the right length for the shoe. Is just so much volume built into that upper. I just flop around in there. Blister City in like sub 2 miles. Just terrible. Lacing techniques, no, there was nothing that was going to save that. So no Mac V1s for me. The Mac V2s don't look, honestly, all that different. I think most of the people who reviewed them agree. But then they started making their own shoe. I held off on this just because of the bad experience with the Mac V1s before. But since I had tried everything else under the sun, and these guys were actually on sale at the time, I was like, well, let's just take a stab at it. So I went 11.5, and these actually kind of, they run slightly small for me. So normally a size 11 in anything is about dead on. I think Fleet Feet was a little bit off on the Mizunos. Just wearing them, there is a hell of a lot of distance in here at 11.5. I think I'm really more of an 11. These, I did go with 11.5, and then because they run small, I think that's about just right as far as where my toes are. So I have used these for all of the Ruck Race League challenges. I've worn them at work and just kind of just general different settings. And there are no issues with the front here. You have a nice wide toe box. I'm not, stubbing the front here, plenty of room. So was very cautious, but these are actually working out. So I did the 9-mile ruck race thing. All right, 9 miles, no blisters. I just did up and down the hill repeats for 2 straight hours with a ruck on Timamook Hill. So with extreme dorsiflexion and plantar flexion plus weight, there weren't any issues. They kind of fall weight-wise in between, I would say, depending on your model of trail shoes. So they are a little bit heavier than, say, your running shoe. The ride is definitely firmer than a running shoe, but not quite to the point of these where you can just hear that slap, slap, slap. These are very, very firm, but they're supposed to be because they're meant to, still got some goat heads that are still trapped up in there. So this occupies kind of that middle space. Most of the GORUCK challenges that I do are more pavement based. So as opposed to the McCalls, I wanted to go with the Rough Runners, kind of just occupying that middle ground. And I think that they do a very good job. I think they kind of deliver on the advertisements as far as this goes. Probably wouldn't be going out to Saguaro National Park with these. I mean, you only have, so much grip. They are, I think, to the feel, not as solidly constructed and built as, say, your traditional trail shoes are. Like, it feels just in your hands like the build quality is a little bit less. But if it doesn't explode my feet, then I'm taking it. So these are extremely breathable. You definitely feel that breeze as you're going by. The laces are very easy to work with. I prefer that kind of runner's heel lock lace in there. And they are much better being these flat laces than the ones that come with the Mac V1s. Those little bitty 3mm things, they would just get tore on the eyelets. They were hot garbage. These are actually much better. Now, what you will notice is just how high this little Achilles part will extend compared to, say, some of your other trail shoes. Which means that your no-show socks are going to present an issue to you because that's only going to cover up to about here. This spot is going to make contact with your skin, and your Achilles area will not love that. I found that out the hard way. So you're going to want, kind of an ankle sock to avoid that particular problem. But All I've been wearing with these shoes and have had really good success with, because they were also on sale at the time, is the Challenge Merino socks that GORUCK has made. These, I would say, are a little bit maybe thinner than the Darn Tough socks that I've been used to. However, in their construction, kind of in that midfoot, sort of between the ankle and the foot area, there's a fair amount of kind of elastic compression. And I think that that kind of really keeps this from sliding around too much on your foot. It really kind of keeps this thing planted and like attached to you. So it's a very good fit combined with this particular shoe. So this combo has been working. I have not had the opportunity to really thrash it in like a challenge type environment to see how they hold up. I would say they are probably going to, durability wise, fall below that of maybe some of your standard trail shoe makes. So that would be a factor to consider. But if it allows me to like get through what I got to get through, and I can just ruck and not have my feet detonate on me, then I will be a very, very happy man. Support wise, they do really, really well. The proprietary insole, it's kind of, much thicker and more substantial than I think a lot of the other trail shoes are, which are just kind of an afterthought, meaning that in orthotic, say like as a Superfeet or something like that, it may actually reduce the amount of volume in there. These are pretty thick. I would say that these are up there compared to like a more, aftermarket orthotic. But in general, no complaints about the insole. I think a lot of the aftermarket, say the Superfeet and everything in that category, is more gimmick. It's more like accommodating a bad fit or a way of getting around some compromised foot strength and dexterity. It's kind of like just a cast, a brace, and that's not going to really help you if you're already down the road of plantar fasciitis, because I've been there. So at least in my my experience and my testing so far, very, very promising results on the GORUCK footwear. I did not expect it. So we're gonna keep hammering away at these and do more of a long-term review once we've got some real serious mileage on it. But so far, everything is very promising. No real downsides. Feet are happy. So finally got there.